We are most helpless when we are in love. Sigmund Freud once said that women do not seek peace, they seek excitement. Long before you ever realized this, Freud had already understood it. Behind every beautiful smile and every tender embrace hides another hunger, one that is not about love, but about conflict, surrender, and psychological tension. As a man, if you fail to understand this, if you still believe that flowers, sweet words, and 100 promises will earn her loyalty, then you have already lost. Because Freud revealed a truth that most men refuse to accept. Women's desire is not attracted to safety, it is drawn instead toward danger, toward what they do not need. This is not an insult, it is not bitterness. It is physiology and psychoanalysis, carved into our flesh and blood. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, who dared to uncover the human unconscious, devoted his life to a single question: what does a woman really want? After decades of listening to wives, lovers, daughters, and seductresses, he gave us the most frightening answer of all. Even she does not fully know, but her body knows, her instincts know. Freud believed that human desire, especially female desire, is not rational, moral, or socially correct. It is primal, shifting, and terrifyingly real. He described female sexuality as a dark continent, unexplored, unpredictable, and brutally misunderstood by civilized society for centuries. And within that repression, Freud discovered a cold truth. What women claim they want and what truly moves them are often not the same thing. She says she wants a kind man, but replies to the one who disappears without warning. She says she wants a man who listens, but thinks obsessively about the man who has the power to ignore her. She says she wants stability, but her heartbeat races for the man who lives on the edge of chaos. Why does this happen? Because Freud understood that women's desire does not operate on logic, it operates on lack, on chasing what cannot be fully possessed. The man who gives everything too easily, who pours out all his emotions, loses his mystery. He becomes predictable, he becomes boring, he becomes disposable. Freud called this the repetition compulsion, a psychological pattern in which we are drawn not to what heals our wounds, but to what reopens our deepest ones. Women, shaped over generations through survival, selection, and struggle, are drawn to men who create emotional conflict, not out of malice, but out of instinct. Because within that tension, when you do not give her complete validation, when you resist her pull, when you remain focused on your own purpose, she feels the electricity of uncertainty, and within that uncertainty, attraction is born. But no one taught you this. You were taught to be available, to show vulnerability, to pour your soul into text messages, hoping she would respect your honesty. And you watched as she slowly lost interest, cruelly, without explanation. You thought something was wrong with you. But Freud would say the problem is not you, it is what you were taught to believe about women. He famously wrote that civilization is built upon repression, especially sexual repression. But repression does not erase desire, it distorts it. And when women are historically bound to roles of modesty, family, and submission, that distortion creates a double life. One conscious, polite, caring, controlled, and another unconscious, wild, untamed, drawn toward what society tells her to avoid. In Asian societies, where family honor and social rules dominate everything, this double life runs even deeper. The pressure to be a good girl is overwhelming, but the unconscious mind is pulled toward the man who breaks all the rules. That is why the fantasy of the bad boy or the crazy guy never truly dies. Because he represents something ancient, something that cannot be controlled. A man who refuses to beg, a man who is not for sale. You have seen this play out in real life. You gave her everything and it still wasn't enough. You answered every call, you took her out, you posted pictures with her on social media, you shared your fears. And yet she pulled away, cold, irritated, and different. Because she did not want your emotional exposure. She wanted your center. That part of you that is not shaken by her mood swings or emotional storms. The part of you that is not disturbed by her silence, that does not panic when she withdraws. She wanted to feel your strength, not through reassurance, but through indifference. Freud wrote the phrase, "Anatomy is destiny." For decades, it has been misunderstood. He did not mean that biology explains everything. He meant that our deepest structures, sexual instinct, reproductive drive, primal selection, shape desire before thought ever does. And for women, that desire is not politically correct. It is not clean or romantic. It is raw. And the man who understands this, not intellectually, but through his posture, his presence, his silence, becomes unforgettable. But you were taught to fear your masculine core. You were told to soften it, to dull it in the name of emotional safety. And now you are confused. You wonder why she leaves, why she tests you, why she picks fights without reason, provokes you, reaches the peak of intimacy, and then pulls away. Because she does not want sameness. She wants your unbreakable mind. She wants the version of you that can walk away from everything if necessary and never look back. And the moment you abandon that, the moment you surrender to her emotional chaos, you become the very thing she despises, a man who can be controlled. Freud did not want to destroy love. He wanted to understand it. He believed that love is always tied to conflict. Desire cannot exist without tension. And this, he argued, is the modern man's tragedy. He wants to be desired and obedient at the same time, powerful yet pleasing, dominant yet emotionally submissive. But these things contradict each other. Desire requires distance. It lives on tension. And the moment you give her everything, you steal the thrill of the chase. She wants to surrender, but only to a man who cannot be steered. She wants to give herself, but only to a man whose purpose is greater than her emotions. She wants to be claimed, but not by a man who needs her to feel complete. And Freud, despite all the controversy around him, saw this with brutal clarity. He did not blame women. He blamed the illusion sold to men, an illusion that leaves them weak, confused, and endlessly brokenhearted. You thought that showing her your wounds would make her stay. You thought that proving your loyalty, consistency, and emotional depth would unlock her devotion. But Freud would tell you this: what truly stirs the female unconscious is not vulnerability, it is self-mastery. Not control over her, but control over your hunger, your restraint, your unwavering mind, your sovereign presence. Understand one thing, what Freud analyzed his entire life. Women do not fall in love with your softness. They fall in love with your restraint. The man who feels desire but does not lunge at it. The man who is tempted but does not lose his way. The man who can love but does not worship. That man is dangerous to the unconscious mind. And in Freud's view, danger does not mean violence. It means power without dependence. You were taught to reverse this equation, to begin relationships by expressing need, to open your soul like an open book and call it strength. But it is not truth, it is exposure. And when you expose yourself before you are tested, when you seek to be chosen before you choose your purpose, you are no longer a man. You are a servant waiting for a queen. And a queen cannot desire a servant. She may use him, she may depend on him, but she cannot want him. Desire, Freud said, is built on tension, on the space between wanting and restraint. It is a dance between hunger and resistance. That is why women lose interest the moment they feel they have you completely, not because they are cruel, but because certainty kills desire. You may believe that love means transparency, pouring out every thought, every fear, every emotion. But Freud saw the flaw in this. He wrote that the unconscious does not care about honesty. It responds to primal patterns, archetypes, symbols, power balance, and emotional polarity. She does not want all of you. She wants what she cannot fully reach. And you, the modern good man, with all your therapeutic intentions, have become too available, too wearable, too manageable. And in doing so, you have made yourself emotionally safe and sexually invisible. Because safety does not ignite desire. Safety does not awaken surrender. It does not stir her ancient instinct to yield. In every myth, every love story, every feminine fantasy, the man is not one who obeys, but one who conquers himself. In Asian families, the idea of the head of the household runs deep, the pillar, who rises above emotion and makes calm decisions. Women unconsciously seek a partner who is sovereign over his own life. That is why Freud placed such importance on structures of control like the ego and the superego. Because the man driven only by primal impulse, by emotion, lust, raw desire, is not a man. He is a slave to himself, and no woman will respect him. She may play with him, she may use him, but she will never kneel before him. The man before whom she surrenders, body or soul, is the man who is greater than his own desires. This is the paradox. You do not win her by chasing her. You win her by becoming a man who chases nothing but his destiny. But you were handed a false map, one that says women want emotional availability more than psychological strength, that they want a man who listens, not one who leads, that they want equality when what they truly crave is polarity. This is why so many men today feel invisible, emasculated, and confused. They behave in ways that kill attraction and then wonder why love turns cold. Worse, they blame themselves. They assume they are not good enough. Freud would say, you are acting against your nature. And she is too, frustrated, restless, unsettled, because her nervous system is not getting what it needs. She wants a man she cannot shake, a man governed by principle, not emotion, a man who does not speak by apologizing, but by directing. And when she finds such a man, even if he is not her type, even if he does not match her fantasies, her body remembers what her mind forgot. This is the man I can trust without controlling. This is the man I can follow without fear. This is the man who can hold me without needing me. You will not become a man by watching more videos. You become a man by rebuilding the architecture of your soul. Freud called this sublimation, the process of channeling primal instinct into higher purpose. Your anger becomes ambition. Your lust becomes discipline. Your heartbreak becomes legacy. Through this transformation, you stop being a reactive man. You become a formidable one. Not a man who merely works a job or follows routines, but a man who has mastered his inner chaos. A man who enters a room with nothing to prove, because his presence announces everything. And the more you seek her approval, the further she retreats, not out of cruelty, but because desire cannot survive in the presence of emotional begging. Desire demands respect, and respect flows only toward the man who does not chase it. This is the truth Freud understood, and knew everyone would hate. Women are not drawn to your soul until they respect your spine. The strength of a man begins there, through silence, through competence, through restraint of need. And the moment you abandon your center just to make her feel emotionally safe, you surrender the only part of you she was ever drawn to. You were taught to lead with your heart, but Freud would say a man must first lead with his spine. Because when you trade your grounded, sovereign self for affection, you do not earn love, you earn silent contempt. She may never say it, she may not even consciously understand it, but it will appear slowly in her eyes, in the fading of admiration. Because she cannot desire a man who has no gravity of his own. She tests you not because she is cruel, but because her unconscious is searching for a man who will not bend. A man who can say no without anger, who can walk away without drama, who can love her without losing himself. Freud called this the reality principle, the ability to delay immediate gratification for long-term strength. And the man who cannot delay his emotions, who reacts every time she withholds attention, every time she grows cold, is not a man ready for respect. He is a child searching for a mother inside a lover. This is the brutal truth. A woman cannot be both your mother and your lover. One kills the other. The moment she feels she has become your emotional caretaker, desire dies. You think she left because of something you did. Freud would say she left because what you were no longer exists. You stopped being a force. You became a function, something predictable. And female desire cannot survive without mystery, tension, and awe. You may be kind, you may be loyal, but if you do not stand in sovereignty, if your life depends on her presence or absence, you are not a man in her eyes. You are an accessory, replaceable. But this is not hopeless. In fact, it is the most liberating truth you will ever hear, because it means you do not need to become someone else. You only need to reclaim what was buried, your purpose, your discipline, your silence. A silence that does not beg to be heard, a purpose that does not require permission, a desire that does not apologize. Freud believed the path to fulfillment is not happiness, it is mastery. Not mastery over the world, but mastery over oneself. So the solution is not to hate women. The solution is not to play games. The solution is to stop chasing approval and to build a life that does not need it. She is not your reward. She is not your purpose. She is a reflection of your internal leadership. If you lead yourself, she will follow. If you center your life around her, everything will leave. Not because she says so, but because biology does not negotiate with fantasy. What Freud dared to say, and what still haunts modern relationships, is this: love is not enough unless it is built on power, emotional power, psychological polarity. This is what creates desire. This is what creates a bond that routine cannot erode. A man who earns respect before seeking love will always receive both. A man who seeks love hoping it will bring him respect will receive neither. So this is your calling, not to become cruel, not to become cold, but to remember. You were not designed to be passive. You were not designed to be emotionally consumed in exchange for conditional affection. You did not come here to beg for loyalty. You came here to become something rare, unyielding to rejection, untouched by manipulation, unreachable by anything that does not serve your deepest purpose. And when you become that man, when you walk not with arrogance, but with unwavering self-direction, something strange happens. The women who once dismissed you begin to look again. The silence that once irritated them becomes magnetic, because they can feel that you no longer need them to complete yourself. And paradoxically, that is the only moment when you become truly desired. The harsh adult truth was never that women are broken. The truth is that they reward sovereignty, not softness. She wants to surrender, but only to something worthy of surrender. And that worth is not measured by how much you please her, but by how little you bend. So stop bleeding for validation. Start standing in truth. Build your life so completely that whether she stays or leaves, your mission continues, unchanged. That is the only path to peace. Not partnerships born from fear, but partnerships born from respect. Not love built on need, but love built on mutual power. And if this awakens something inside you, if it reminds you of who you were before the world taught you to kneel, then don't walk away quietly. Like, share, subscribe. And if you want to support this movement, this resistance against mediocrity, go to the link in the description. No matter how small your support is, it helps us say the things no one else dares to say. Because this is not just a video, it is a reminder. You did not come here to be chosen. You did not come here to beg. You came here to become.